Speaking of friends, we are actually starting this show off today talking all about the power and the importance of friendship. And my first guest is someone who has strong feelings on the topic because she herself has a strong support system through her chosen family. Alex Alexander is the creator and the host of the Friendship IRL podcast, and she joins me now. And I should probably explain, because I didn't know this until like maybe a year ago. IRL means in real life. So friendship in real life, that is what is important to you to talk about. So let's talk about your childhood, because you and I have spoken before. She was a woman to watch with 425. I've heard you speak about this. Why did your childhood lead you to value friendship so deeply and strongly?
So I had a pretty rough family of origin situation as a kid. And, you know, when you're kind of on your own, if I'm being honest,
Yeah.
then I think I instinctually realized at a certain point that we're not supposed to do life alone.
Yeah.
So I really leaned into friendships in high school and college, and that was easy. That was fine.
Yeah.
Like, that's the time of your life you're supposed to do things with friends.
Right, right.
And then I'd say in my late 20s, early 30s, messages started changing. People started really pushing, you know, are you going to move home closer to family?
Ah.
Like,
And that was not an option for you.
that doesn't feel very good.
Yeah.
That's not right for me.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to make this choice. Like, it was easy to lean into friendship in my younger years, but the older I got, I really had to kind of put my stake in the ground. So I really started telling my friends how important they were to me, that they were ultimately my support system, that they were the people I called when things went wrong. You know, other people called their moms. My mom passed away when I was 13.
Yeah.
So when bad things happen, I call my closest friends.
Yeah. How did they react to that when you told them a very raw and vulnerable thing to share with a friend? How did they react?
You know, I think that we already were leaning in to each other for support. Like, that's quite often who you go to when you're younger.
Yeah.
And that kind of shifts. So it wasn't a big change. It was just them continuing to think about how important this was, even as life had more and more responsibilities and time was split out, like continuing to see this as a priority.
Well, it's interesting because I was just going to say it was changing for people because you know, at that age, you know, you start getting, I see my younger friends going through this now, like the marriages start, the kids start being had, and priorities and perspectives do change. But I wanted to talk with you specifically because I love how head-on you take this and how real you are about friendship. And how so many people talk about the Seattle freeze specifically.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't easy for me to find friends when I first moved here. I don't think it was the Seattle freeze. I think it was just the time I was in my life. But you're a born and raised Seattleite. What do you think about this term when you hear Seattle freeze? Do you think it's real?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the way I knew that it was real was actually my own personal experience.
Oh, really?
I was thinking about this morning. The first time I realized that I was pulling back was actually when I was much, much younger. We were traveling. We were in Vietnam. I was at a hostel, and I remember meeting these people. I think they were German. And they were saying that they wanted to go try this new restaurant nearby and that we should invite some of the other people around. And I immediately was like, oh, why would we do that? Why?
Okay.
And I immediately realized, like, why is that my tendency to not want to reach out? We're all here. People are traveling. Like, we'd have fun. I think I was 23 at the time.
I mean, I feel that though, even at this age. So did you come up with like a reason why we do this?
I mean, I think that, no, I think we're just kind of socialized to do this, to pull back. It's not the norm. You don't grow up watching. If you are like me and you grew up in Seattle, I didn't grow up watching or seeing anybody model just casually meeting someone and saying, oh, do you want to come to that?
That's a really, really good point. God, I love talking to you. It just makes me shift my perspective. So what tips do you have someone for who, you know, might be trying to make friends, meet new people, but the Seattle freeze keeps getting in the way? We're not seeing these open friendships, these casual friendships.
Well, so I would tell anybody who is here, just know, one, it's a real thing.
Okay, thank you.
Don't get too discouraged.
All right.
Yeah. Number two, I tell anybody this, but especially if you are somebody who moved here, you know, if you're trying to make friends, not everyone has that same intention. Somebody might feel like their friendship bucket is full.
Okay,
and
all right.
You're out there connecting with people. So what I tell people is you take on the responsibility of connecting.
Yeah.
You make the invite, you reach out, and I know that feels like a lot of energy, but it's kind of like wanting to make any other change in your life. You have to put in the energy and the effort.
How many times okay, so there was this one time when I'd been here maybe a year, and I met this lady at Starbucks, and we just hit it off. Like, the chemistry was there, and we exchanged numbers, and granted, we both were really pregnant at the time, so we both had our babies by this point, and I reached out and said, hey, I really had a nice time talking to you like a few months ago. Would you like to meet up?
Yep.
And then I didn't get anything back. And then I reached out a second time, like, hey, just in case, I know we're busy. But at that point, I was like, and she never got back again. So I just figured, oh, maybe I should just leave it alone. I still see this person, by the way, in my community from time to time.
Okay.
And I'm just like, hey, like, when is it too much? Like, when are you starting to get creepy?
I think that a great way to alleviate that is, our go-to is quite often to invite people to one-on-one get-togethers. Can we have coffee?
Okay, all right.
Can we have dinner? Can we get drinks? And when you do that, you're asking somebody to take a chunk of their very limited time and focus it just on you. And again, remember, their intention may not be the same as yours. So I think that something that really alleviates that is focusing more on group functions.
All right.
Invite them to something in your neighborhood. Invite them to meet up and maybe kind of double up, a workout class that you go to, a play date with your kids at the park, something where they don't feel in the beginning like they're fully having to dedicate time. They still are using their time in another way they would need to use it anyways.
You know, it's so interesting that you say that. A lot of times since I've moved here, I've been asked by folks like, hey, would you like to go on a walk? And I always thought, what a weird thing. But that's a really good point. You're walking, you're out, you're doing something. It's not a weird thing where you're just one-on-one time. Now I know why. What ways might we be adding to the Seattle freeze and not even realizing it?
Ooh. Well, you already heard my story about being abroad.
Yes.
I think that a lot of us Seattleites are just very used to kind of making these statements that really hold no meaning. They're pretty fluffy, so we'll say, oh yeah, I'd love to get together, or we should totally do that sometime. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
I know we think that that's nice, but it's not. There's so many other things you can say. You could say, it was so nice meeting you, and I hope I see you at another school function.
Okay. I hope I see you again.
I hope I see you again, yeah. And maybe you will see them again. Maybe it's somebody that is in your neighborhood or somebody at school or at work. And then you can say hi when you see them at those things, but you don't have to, again, feel like you're using your energy and your effort to get those one-on-one.
To exchange numbers. And then I end up being the person who doesn't text back, which doesn't feel good because that's not who we are. Should we try to be more friendly overall?
So I am really on a mission to get people to see that there's no like peak moment where somebody is impactful in our life. That if we really focus on this moment where somebody's our closest friend or our best friend, and that's all we see value in, we're missing all the value before we get there. We're so focused on what isn't there that we miss what is there. So I think that even just moving through our day, the barista, the people in your neighborhood that you pass by, they're valuable. They're positive interactions. And studies show that those leave us with positive impressions and make us happier.
I could not agree more. Thank you so much. I'm going to actually watch this whole interview back again on my own show because you've got so much great information. And if you'd like to hear more from Alex, just let's find her podcast, Friendship IRL, and you'll learn so much. We'll have her back on the show again, of course, too. And I'm not just saying that. I'm serious.